There's a quiet power in stillness, a real strength in choosing thought over instinct, awareness over reaction. Today, I want to talk about something many of us overlook, not just how we grow, but why growth that is intentional, slow, purposeful, and grounded leads to a more resilient, confident, and fulfilling life. Not every transformation happens with fireworks. Some begin with questions like, why did that situation feel wrong? Why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why haven't I moved forward yet? These questions, the ones that sting a little, are signs, not of failure, but of development. So let's begin with something fundamental. Before we act, we often learn. In the 1960s, psychologist Albert Bandura conducted a series of experiments studying how people learn behavior, not through direct experience, but through observation. The most famous was the Bobo doll experiment, where children who watched adults behave aggressively toward an inflatable toy were far more likely to imitate that behavior later. This research wasn't about violence. It was about how humans internalize patterns without first-hand experience. We're wired to learn from others, from their successes, from their missteps, from their decisions. When you start recognizing choices that repeatedly lead to stress, confusion, or emotional exhaustion, that awareness isn't weakness, it's education. It's you opting to learn before doing. A strategy experts call vicarious learning. You don't have to make every mistake yourself. You just have to pay attention. It's easy to fall into comparison, especially with social media, where highlights are constant and context is absent. But research into social comparison theory shows something important. When we compare our real lives to others' curated moments, our sense of self-worth and satisfaction drops. A study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found that limiting social media usage reduced feelings of loneliness and depression. The reason? We often compare our reality to someone else's best moments. The reason? We often compare our reality to someone else's best moments. It is not early, it is your own. Not one person you see on a screen has lived your life, with your experiences, your challenges, your insecurities, your strengths. Comparison is not a compass, it's a distraction. When you stop using others' timelines as your measure of success, your own progress becomes visible. Failure is universal, but interpretation is personal. In his work on emotional intelligence, psychologist Daniel Goleman explains that the way we frame our experiences changes our emotional response to them. What if failure wasn't a sign of inadequacy, but an experiment? Thomas Edison once said about inventing the light bulb, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And neuroscience supports this mindset. When we frame setbacks as data, information about what doesn't serve us, our brains activate what researchers call a growth mindset. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's research shows that individuals with a growth mindset view challenges as opportunities to learn and improve, not as reflections of their worth. So when something doesn't go your way, whether it's a relationship that fizzles, a job opportunity that slips, or something you hoped would last and didn't, what if you thought of it not as a loss, but as preparation? Not everyone fails forward, but those who do build resilience with each attempt. Relationships shape our lives deeply. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby, tells us that the bonds we form influence how we connect, trust, and feel secure. But it also highlights something else. Not every connection is meant to be permanent. Some deserve effort and care. Some deserve closure. This is where discernment becomes crucial. Discernment isn't about cynicism. It's about clarity. It's understanding that not every person who once mattered is meant to stay in your life forever. Some connections provide growth. Others create patterns that drain your energy without adding value. In the book Boundaries, authors Henry Cloud and John Townsend talk about the importance of protecting your emotional and psychological space, setting limits not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Your energy is finite, your focus matters, and the people who respect your boundaries and encourage your growth, those are the ones worth rebuilding with, worth investing in, worth walking toward again. Doing things on your own, even the small ones, builds confidence most people underestimate.